Gentlemen, and welcome to this Thursday, May the 2nd meeting of the Bossier Parish School Board Finance Committee. We have three items to be considered. We're going to have to move somewhat expeditiously simply because we have additional meetings following this one. Our first item on the agenda is approval of salary schedule for 2024-25 as presented by our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Nisha Bamberg. Ms. Bamberg.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Bullard, Superintendent Rowland, members of the board, thank you all tonight for being here. We are excited to be able to present the salary schedule for 24-25 to you. And I've given y'all all a printed copy of the schedule. You should have a copy of that book. So one of the first things we want to point out is that at this time we are not proposing a pay raise for 24-25 across the board. We will keep that in mind, obviously, but at this time we did not feel comfortable recommending a across-the-board pay raise. So if you look on like page 4, that 9-month teacher pay scale, that will mirror the 9-month teacher pay scale from the prior year. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that everyone will still get their step increases. So the new salary schedules do not affect that they would not get step increases. The step increases are still there and are built in for all employees across the board. And so, trying to think, we did update there were some descriptors on the salary schedules that we needed to update to clarify some of the positions on certain scales, primarily at the district level support staff. So we did those. We had a correction on the licensed maintenance tech that we needed to make. So we made a correction on that description as well. And then this will be year 2 of the phase-in of the incremental raises that we had to do on certain positions. That goes back to that salary restructure that we did last year and incrementally increasing a couple of specific scales. So this is phase 2 or year 2 of that phase-in. So any questions from the board at this time on the salary schedules? I can go in more detail if y'all have any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
I just want to make a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm impressed. I don't know how long this took or how many people this took. This is impressive.
Thank you.
I don't think we've ever had one like this.
Last year was the first year that we put it together like this. And so, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. This is awesome. Good work.
Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bamberg, is it safe to assume that this book mirrors the multipliers that we implemented previously?
Yes, sir.
If I were to take the original teacher schedule and go by the multipliers, they would match up, correct?
Yes, sir.
And just for clarification and for the record, everyone still gets their step increases. What you referred to at the beginning is the fact that no additional raise will be given at this time because
Correct.
We are waiting for information from the state and a lot of other things. But to be clear, employees will get step increases as noted in these schedules. What you referred to is above and beyond their regular step increases. I want to make sure everybody was crystal clear about that for the record.
Yes, sir. And if y'all remember last year when we went to these more uniform salary schedules using the multiplier that you're referring to, we actually made it where everyone gets a step increase every year. And so this still is reflective of that step increase every year. And it will be in line with those multipliers. Yes, sir. So this is the exact same methodology that we adopted last year. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
One addendum to Mr. Newman's comments. Item 3 is going to address additional compensation.
Yes, sir.
That we're going to consider. Whereas we're not looking at a, quote, pay raise, we are going to consider additional compensation over and above our standard salary schedule.
Yes, sir.
So I guess I say that we want our teachers and our support personnel to know we want to compensate them and we want to do as much as humanly possible. We just may put a different name on it, given the restrictions that we're faced with, and the unknowns. We don't know what the state's going to do.
Yes, sir.
So we've got to keep that in mind. But Ms. Poole?
I'm not actually on the committee, but I just
Yes,
wanted,
ma'am. Everyone is on this committee.
oh, that's right, the finance,
Committee of
that's
the whole.
right. Finance is the committee of the
So
whole.
you just speak your mind.
I just wanted to clarify too for the record, I believe Ms. Bamberg last year was the first year that I
Yes,
can
ma'am.
remember, and I've worked 39 years in the district, that we actually are giving a step increase every year now.
Correct.
And that we've not previously, as far as I know, back 39 years prior to that, ever did every single year. So I think
Correct.
that's important to note, and it was also capped, I believe, at 28 years?
The teacher pay scale was capped at 28. We had some other scales, like the custodial scale. It actually stopped, I think, at year 10. And so after 10
Right.
years, they didn't get any raises.
Right, in the para from 0 to
Correct.
20 was
Yes, ma'am.
very minimal. So I think
so-
that's important to note.
Yes, ma'am.
That, I know that, that's not a raise, but it, in a sense, they're not waiting 3 years for a step increase. We're giving a one every year, and I think that's noteworthy to emphasize, even though that went into effect this school year.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And the other was the, it's going to 30 years now.
Correct.
And not capped at 28. So I just think that's something, and I'm all for giving teachers a raise.
Yes, ma'am.
And hope that we can do that. But I think that's something that we're moving in the positive direction, so.
Thank you, Ms. Poole.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, the chair will entertain an approval of the salary schedule as presented by Ms. Bamberg. Have a motion from Ms. Smith. Do I hear a second? Second from Ms. Brotherton. All in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Moving on to item number 2, approval of revised budgets for 2024-25. I believe the superintendent recommended that we have our president, Mr. Bertrand, read this budget into the record. But, Mr. Bertrand, I think we need to just overrule that, and we will just submit it as a single item and move on, if that's okay with you.
We'll just put abbreviation.
Okay. Seriously, this is being provided by and presented by, once again, Ms. Bamberg.
Yes,
Ms.
sir.
Bamberg, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, so tonight is y'all's first time seeing the Munis or the Tyler reports. And so I am excited to be able to present the first budget out of the new accounting system. It's a lot of work to get here, but I'm very excited to be able to present one of the system-generated reports instead of the other format that we've used in the past. So as Mr. Bullard has already hinted, it is an extensive document this year. And so I will take a little bit longer going over it than I normally would, because I want to make sure that I can explain to y'all how to read the document and to make sure that we are all following the flow on it. So I put a header on, or a cover sheet on each of the funds, and so at the bottom right of your document, it'll say page 1 of 163. So you can see, we can track along where we are. So page 2, this will be the starting of the general fund budget. So page 2 and 3 are going to be your revenues, okay? And so I have it consolidated. I know it may not feel that way, but it is consolidated. And these are summary based. So the first group, all right, so if you're looking at the budget in the top left corner, you'll see general fund. And then you'll see a section that says 410,000, and it says local revenues. Okay, so this is going to be the group of all of our local revenues, and then you'll see a group for the state revenues and the federal revenues. That way you kind of see the division in the general fund of the revenue source. Starting on the columns, you'll see that 2023 actual is blank. That's because we weren't in the new system in 23, and we don't have those balances in there. But starting with 24, you're going to have a column for your original budget. It's going to have a column for a revised budget all that is that's the budget that's in the system right now. We've had to make adjustments in certain areas, and that's going to be brought over to the board for approval, but that's what that column is. You're going to see a 2024 actual. That was as of the day that I pulled the report, which was yesterday. Okay, the 2023 projection, that is actually a copy of the 2024 revised budget, okay? So that projection column for now does not mean much to y'all, okay? The column that you're really looking at is the column all the way to the right that is 2024 division. That is the budget that we are asking the board to adopt tonight. The 2024 division column on the far right is the budget that we're asking the board to adopt tonight. So for instance, the constitutional taxes, the original budget for constitutional was $4,090,000. What we're asking the board to adopt tonight for constitutional is $4,564,000. Does that make sense? Okay, so to get into a little bit of detail, as you can see, there's a significant increase on the ad valorem taxes this year. We did see a large increase this year, primarily due to the COVID credits all going away and some new property. And so that was the reason for the increase. We did project an increase this year, but it came in better than we expected on ad valorem. So that's kind of what you'll see there at the top. One of the other areas is the Medicaid reimbursements. Medicaid is still getting caught up at the state level, and so we saw an increase there. It's close to the end of the local revenues, and so we had a large increase in the Medicaid revenue this year. Under the state revenues, the MFP, it's a state public school fund. That's going to be your MFP funding. On MFP, it looks like you'll see here that the budget was able to increase for MFP. We actually did have a cut to our MFP. I had already cut it back in the budget, trying to be conservative when planning for this fiscal year, and so I cut it back more than the state cut us, and so we were able to increase that line item as well. And then on page 3, you'll see the federal revenues. And you'll see a large increase in the federal flood control. The federal flood control money, we have no control over. We just get the check each year from the state. So we saw an increase there. Yes, sir?
We're working with, this is actually page 2, your cover page. Oh,
Yes, sir.
Oh, you're working off the bottom.
I'm working off the bottom number.
okay.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Pardon me, I didn't look far enough.
No, sir.
Excuse me.
I knew that was confusing. I am working off that bottom number where it says page 3 of 163. The reason being is I've got several different reports in here, and I wanted a continuous numbering source that we could use. So I'm sorry about that, Mr. Bullard.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, no problem.
I'm being ostracized at this moment.
Not a problem, Mr. Bullard. Okay, so that was the information on the flood control. And then the bottom section is called Other Sources of Funds. This is going to be a little different for y'all. If y'all remember on the old budgets, we always saw the transfers in from the sales tax fund and the salary and insurance fund at the bottom. That's what this line is. That operating transfer in is going to be the money that we're getting from the sales tax fund and the salary and insurance fund. So that's why that's such a significant revenue source for the general fund, is it comes from the salary and insurance millages and then the actual sales tax collections that we receive. And so that's where that amount's coming from. But overall, total revenues, that grand total at the bottom, we are budgeting $291,847,000 for total revenues for the general fund, which was an increase of about $18 million. Like I said, a lot of that came from those few significant line items that we saw increase. So. All right, page 4 of 163, this is going to start your expenses. I'm not going to go through all of the expenses unless y'all have specific questions on line items. But again, you're going to kind of read it the same way. On the revenues, how we had it broken out by local revenue and then state revenue and federal, y'all have probably heard us talk before about how we break out expenses by function. Is it for regular instruction? Is it for special ed? Is it for transportation? Is it for adult continuing ed? Is it for human resources, financial, just all the different functions that we cover? So that's how this is broken out. So you'll have a section, the first ones are the 1,100, your regular programs. These are going to be general expenses, instructional. And then I had listed out the objects because I wanted you to see which type of expenses were in each functional area. And so that's kind of the breakout that you'll see for those, your expenses. So like on page 5 of 163, that next page, you'll see a function around the middle of a page that's 1110 elementary, and then you're going to have a section for your teachers. That way you know that's what all of these expenses are. Absolutely.
23 projections than it was last year, the last one, 24 divisions. That's the same carryover concept.
Okay, so slightly. The original budget is obviously the original budget that was imported in. The revised budget is currently what's in the system. Then the 2023 projection, I don't know why they label it that. It actually, if you look at it, it's a copy of the 2024 revised budget. I am working on a more streamlined format that I think is going to be cleaner for y'all, but that's what that column is. The 2024 division is what we're asking approval for tonight. Does that make sense? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, I knew it was going to be a little different tonight. And I'm trying to find my tab. I'm sorry. All right. Unless there's a specific line item y'all want to go over on the expenses, if you go to page 53 of 163. Okay. At the bottom, you'll see a grand total column. This is going to be the end of your general fund expenses. And so, again, you'll see your totals all the way across in the 2024 division, or the current revised budget that we're asking approval for tonight is $294,472,000. Underneath that, I have typed in the projected profit and loss. We are projecting a loss for 23-24 of $2.6 million. That is what we are asking approval for tonight. And so I did not put that, that's my fault. I forgot to put the parentheses in when I typed that, but that is, if you take the revenues less the expenses, we are projecting a loss. That is a strategic loss. I do want y'all to know that it's strategic, and it's because we are requesting the supplement to be paid this year. It's the supplement that's pushing us over to a loss. Now, what I will say is, even with the loss, our projected ending fund balance is at $57,571,000. That percentage is 19.55%, which is still within our guidelines for our reserves. And so I do feel comfortable presenting this budgeted loss to the board tonight. I do feel like we're in a very strong position, and I'm confident in the supplement that we're presenting. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You said that percentage is in the 19s?
19.55.
If I remember, Mr. Bullard, some of the people that are more seasoned than me, wasn't our target like 16-something?
Yes, sir, 16.67.
Is there a reason why we have 3% more?
Unforeseen revenues in the prior year.
Okay, could we, I mean, I'm not the accountant, obviously, but could we shift that from that reserve or that benchmark into the fund to reduce that deficit? Or I'm just
Okay.
looking for a balanced budget, not a deficit budget, so that's.
Absolutely. Yes and no. Okay, so the way that the budget works is we're strictly looking at income and expenses. That $2.6 million, that's essentially what we're doing. We're taking revenue, we're eating away at the reserve that we have available. So we're taking prior year revenues to cover current year expenses. When you mention a deficit budget, The deficit budget in the accounting world that we talk about, that is a no-no that you cannot have, is that I don't have any reserves to cover the loss that I'm projecting. So a true deficit budget is that I have no funds available to cover the loss that I'm projecting, so my ending fund balance is going to be in the hole. That's a true deficit budget. We are not proposing that at all tonight. All we're proposing is to use some prior year revenues to help cover this supplement so that we can give the supplement to the employees this year.
$2.4 million doesn't mean we're operating in the red. It means that we,
Absolutely, no, sir. We are still, and that's why I wanted to point out that our ending reserve balance is 19.55. That's after taking into account that, like I said, it's a strategic loss. It's not unforeseen. We know that by presenting the supplement that pushes us to use prior year reserves to help cover that. But again, we feel very comfortable with it because our ending reserve number is still at 19.5%. After, yes, sir. So this projected ending fund balance takes into account that loss, that $57 million. That $57 million is 19.55% of total expenses, total budgeted expenses. That's where we get that percentage. And so, yes, sir, we are still in a solid position.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bamberg, a couple of things want to make sure our board is clear on. First of all, before we worked up the supplement, and what was our percentage of overage before we worked up the supplement?
20.7, I think.
Okay.
I'll have to go back and look, but I think it was 20.7.
And so by the supplement that we're going to propose here in a few minutes, that brought our percentage down somewhat.
Yes, sir.
And like Mr. Newman said, Mr. Bullard affirmed, our target is 16% overage. In the event that some of the things that our teachers have been promised from the legislature over the last couple of years, in the event that that number wasn't met to what they were promised, would this percentage that we're over now, could that go toward possible future things that are done for teachers as well, by supplementing supplements that may not hit the mark that they were promised?
Yes, sir.
you.
Absolutely. And
Thank
that's
you, Mr.
another
Chairman.
reason, we're trying to be strategic with what we're doing this year, is the unknowns of the legislature, and we're trying to make sure that we keep enough there that we can protect our teachers and provide for them. Yes, sir.
Ms. Smith?
Ms. Bamberg, I know we flipped through 50 pages here, but what are our sales tax? Are they still on the decline right now?
They are,
Decreasing monthly?
it is decreasing monthly. I keep a running track of the sales tax over the prior year, because every month fluctuates so differently based on, Christmas is a really good month, and for some reason, April is normally a really good month. I'm assuming income tax and stuff, but you have these different months that are really better than others, so I compare month over prior year, same month. So right now, we're seeing about a $200,000 loss per month over the prior year, same month. Is currently what we're seeing. Like I said, the month of April typically tends to be a really big month for sales tax. And so that particular loss, like April 24 over April 23, was $700,000. And so it is significantly fluctuating. I was prepared for to hit a sort of recession on the sales tax, so I had projected down. And so we're still within range of the original budget on sales tax. We were actually able to increase that a little bit. But it is declining. The sales tax is currently declining. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brotherton?
Ms. Bamberg, I know that we have had added jobs and hired and opened new positions up, and we're having to add teachers, I'm sure, every year. All of that is reflected in this, correct? All of the new salaries and all is in
Yes,
the
ma'am.
budget?
So this is the revised budget for 23-24. So this is the year that's going to end in June. So yes, everyone in current positions, and we even pick up, in this particular budget, we pick up some vacancies because that position is there, and so we budget for those as well. But this is kind of finishing out what we expect 23-24 to look like in the end. Even this year, though, we have tried to be very lean. When we add positions, we try to make sure that we pull from other sources, so that we make sure we stay in line with where we need to be. I know I worked with Ms. Howe on the staffing just recently. Currently, the staffing for teachers for 24, 25, we're able to keep it flat. We're able to shift where we need to shift so that we can keep that flat. So we're doing everything we can to make sure that we stay in line, and if we do increase in a certain area, that we're able, to pull back in another area to accommodate for that.
Ms. Bamberg,
Yes, sir.
does your revised budget, does that incorporate the projected, excuse me, the projected loss we're looking at in our self-insured insurance?
Yes, sir.
plan?
So this was the general fund. I only gave y'all some of I didn't give y'all all 160 pages. Let me find that fund. If you go to page, oops, wrong one. I would not be able to find this, Mr. Bullard, when you asked about it. I'm sorry. Here we go. Page 59 of 63. This is going to be the budget for the group insurance, or the self-insured insurance plan. And so this year, we're expecting the total revenue for the group insurance to be at $62 million. The total expenditures, though, are still expected at $63.6. And so I will say the increase that we did last year has helped a lot with this, but this is also why we brought the increase that we did a couple months ago. So this projected ending fund balance here, this is what I'm projecting for the end of June of *24.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
And just for the record, Ms. Bamberg provided these documents to us via email, so we have had an opportunity to review them for a day or so, although some of us had to have a little help getting them in a format that we could read, and I thank you for doing so.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions or comments for Ms. Bamberg on our budget? Hearing none, do I hear a motion, or the chair will entertain a motion to approve the revised budget for 2024-25 as presented? Have a motion by Mr. Bachhaus. Do I hear a second? Second by Ms. Pooh. All in favor, please raise your hand. Let it reflect it was unanimously approved. We have one other item, approval of a one-time supplement guidelines. Once again, Ms. Bamberg, you're earning your keep today.
Yes, sir. Keeping me on my toes. Okay, so tonight we are presenting recommendation for a one-time supplement to be paid in May of '24. And so this is actually one of the moments I love, or one of the items I love to bring before the board, because we do like being able to reward our employees. And so tonight we are asking for a one-time supplement of $1,600 for the professional staff and $1,000 for the support staff, for all employees that are active on payroll as of May 1st. So if they're active on payroll as of May 1st, they would be eligible to receive the one-time supplement. We do expect that to be paid on May 20th, and that will be via direct deposit to the employee's account. So, any questions?
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the presentation, and we've all been cogitating on this for several days. So, Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a comment. If I'm not mistaken, some of my other board members, this might be one of the largest May supplements we've ever done in the last probably 7 or 8 years, right?
It's going to be up there.
Yeah.
I thought
Right.
1,200 is the most we
Yeah, I think we've been doing 12, so this is the first time we've been able to do 16. So, and I think a lot of that is
too.
due to the prudence of Ms. Bamberg and her team and trying to do everything they can to reward our employees. So, excellent.
I think we're all
Moved.
Second.
So, motion by Mr. Newman,
Second.
second by Mr. Faulting. All in favor, please. That one is unanimous as we anticipated. I'm sorry, did I overlook somebody?
Yeah, you did.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Ms. Bamberg. Thank you, members of the board, for
Thank you.
turning out. I know today's going to be a long day, but I appreciate everybody showing up. Mr. Rowland.
Thank you. Mr. Bullard, just on behalf of all of us, want to thank Ms. Bamberg, her entire staff, Ms. LaShin, all those that have worked literally around the clock to get you this budget, this revised budget to this point. The new system is good, but we don't know all the tricks of the trade yet. A lot of this she had to do by hand. She'd send me text message at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'd get them the next day. So I appreciate her, though, the way she worked. And also on behalf of all the employees of Bossier Parish Schools, we thank our board for loving us and loving our teachers and all of our employees to the point of giving us this fantastic little summer special money as we get ready to exit here.
Mr. Newman.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I had one other thing I wanted to get some clarification on. Ms. Bamberg, can you help me clarify that the supplement that we're giving does count towards retirement, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. The only difference between calling it a supplement and versus calling it their salary is that it's not built into the salary schedule, and it's just, we don't feel comfortable committing to that for a recurring revenue stream. This particular supplement's going to cost us just under $5 million. And so that's the reason we call it a supplement. They get full credit for retirement. They're going to get it's going to be fully reported. It's just not a recurring promised amount at this point.
So they're getting more of a benefit than just what's going to be in that check that they're going to get on the 20th. They're going to get some benefit into their retirement account and so forth.
Yes, sir?
All right, just want to make sure we called that out as well, because that's, I don't want to say double dipping, but that's double dipping in a good way, so.
Any other comments?
I think we should make an amendment if that includes the school board.
I think you're going to have to talk to your
I think it would
legislators.
be unanimous.
Any other comments? If not, we stand adjourned.